Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. We are getting back rolling after some rest and recovery, let's call it. We're going to be picking up with our game dev, but we will be returning to some creepy games. I do like a bit of that now and again. And I want to get that back into the loop, but we do need to make progress on the game. But before we get too much further into that, let's check in with the kitties. We can see all 5 of them right now. We have Sky, and Sky's in Ember's spot, so Ember is off to the side there. Yeah, special. And I did see your message before. Thanks. I like to do games like Observation Duty, Anomaly Watch, those kind of things, where it's more about kind of tension and unnerving scenarios as opposed to, monster gonna get you. I actually really dislike closet stealth games. Yeah, that kind of thing. Last one we played, the last stream was like home support hotline or something like that. But it was one of those where it starts out where you're just calling out things like you might have termites, and it's culminating in like, hey, a particular type of fairy may have killed your pet. But yeah. Let's switch over here. Yeah, it was pretty fun. I do want to finish the DLC on that one. There's like a winter Christmas themed DLC. I want to do that. There's at least one Spot the Difference game. There's a kind of an atmospheric story one, and another kind of camera one that is supposed to be sometime this month, but when is unknown. We'll see. So far, Observation Duty has been, I think, the premier Spot the Anomaly one. Para Eyes, I think, got close. And I like some of what we saw out of Death Watch. But so far, Observation Duty, especially the newer ones, top tier. And apparently they're going to have a 7th one soon. Ooh, Seeing Things. I haven't heard of that one. Just a moment here. We'll see if I remember to check on that. I made a quick note. Don't worry about chatting. We're moving relatively slow on this, largely because I'm not worried about how quickly we get done. It's the journey together that we're doing. So if you want to keep chatting, feel free. I'm fine with that. If I do get locked in, I may not notice very quickly, though. Okay. Okay, so we're working on the inventory cells. This is the visual portion. I think it's still working right now, so if we turn it on. Again, we're working on the visual portion of the inventory. So these blocks across the bottom, I don't think they're going to be that big. But I want to get this in place. So what I'm working on right now is stuff like events for dragging and dropping stuff. I might need to have click and release, but I kind of think I can just deal with drag and drop. Like click, drag over, release kind of stuff. You can see one of the more intensive UI like projectile logic chains going on here. There's a lot of spiraling and whatnot. Last time we did try, I don't know if it was last time or the time before, but we attempted navigation logic for the enemies, and it just wasn't working. Ooh. Wow, we had a frame rate tank there. Every now and then, I don't know what's going on. We haven't been able to pin it down, but there is the possibility of a frame rate tank. It happens at 9,000 entities. I'm guessing that there might be some sort of Godot level garbage collection or similar, or possibly like an array in the background that needs to be reallocated. Where frame rate drops precipitously, but then restores. Right now, we've got 8,000 blobs on the screen. Well, yeah, 8,000 blobs. Probably more like 7,999 because you can just see the little cat bot in the center. But they're all moving. They're moving a lot. There's many kind of micro motions going on. So there is at least like 40,000 operations per physics frame happening. But it's working well. We're holding at just about 60 frames a second constantly. But like I said, today we're working on the UI. I'm going to have to get a software like a cursor replacement, I should say. Because it's really easy to lose the cursor in this mess. Okay, so back into code time. This is the inventory cell. This is what those little gray boxes were. If we look over here into the actual scene, can see that there's pretty much nothing in this. The texture is empty. We're going to solve that in a moment. So I need to figure out... Okay, so here is our inventory UI, the HUD portion. It's got a container, and as part of its script, right now we're generating a bunch of them, and I believe we are stuffing their texture. Yes, we're going to change that. And forgive me if I periodically have to mute like that. My seasonal cough is back, and it's loud and kind of brutal. So just a moment. We'll see if we can mitigate that to some extent. Medication. All right. So we're setting the minimum size for these cells because we don't want them to get squished. Instead of loading the texture here, we're going to have the cell created. Wow, that was a Twitch spike there. So we go in here, and when we're creating it, we have a row and a column. We're going to need to have a default. These cannot be read-only. We'll keep them public for now, just because I'm a one-person team, so I don't have to worry about coworkers getting in here and deciding, hey, I'm just gonna mess with this object. I'm fine with these being read-only because they never change, but this will change. This will be image key. Public. Public texture image. I kind of want there to be a default in here. For the image key. Because it's possible that this is going to be loaded up without knowledge of what is in the actual inventory. So for now, let's just leave this as a blank. So we have to go into our catalog. So we have our art path. We're going to load textures. Let's do load icons. Just the sitting position a little bit. Get the hands on the keyboard a little better. What's it called? Okay. Okay, it's good in here because then we have icons as one of our pathways here. Icon path. So we'll just need to set this up. Okay. So this will be blank. Okay. Static void load icons. Now, ultimately, I may change load textures to loads for the specific sets, so I can get all of them in there and I don't have to worry about interleaving them fully. Let's see, this is a texture wrapper, but that's not really the case with these. Icons are a little different from loading a texture because we're just getting the texture 2D. Static dictionary string to texture 2D icons. Icons is equal to a new dictionary load icons. We're going to need a get for it as well. Should be there. We have get texture, which gives a texture wrapper targeter. String of key. All right, now we need to load them. So it's primarily just going to be this part. So instead of enemy path, we're going to have icon path, and we are going to have icon blank. And then icons. Add blank texture. So that is how we're going to load textures. So to some extent, I only want the image key to change if a particular event gets raised. So we only really care about it if the actual inventory if the actual in-game inventory is the one to report a change. So what we're going to do here is we are going to set it up to be blank when we create one. It's not image, it is something else here. What is the variable name on a UI cell? Should be texture. Catalog, get icon, image key. So then in this, we are going to remove you. Move you over here. I might be able to set that in the actual scene here. Yeah. Inventory UI cells should have that baked in. The 96 is for scale purposes. All of the sprites are 16 by 16 currently. Might still bump that up to 32, but the scale of the scene, in order to get a 1920 by 1080 screen, with this kind of sprite ratio, is 6. There's some wiggle there at the edges, but we're doing 6. So a 16 by 16 sprite is actually 96 by 96 in the screen of the game. Okay, so we've defaulted it to blank here. Then what we're going to do is can drop data is going to say, is this data a vector 2? We don't want it to be 0, 0. Type. You can drop it if you've supplied a vector 2. We don't care about at position, we care about what the data is. So when we drop data, then It's entirely a raise event. We don't do anything with drop data here. But maybe we will, for visual purposes. What's it called? This. We're checking to see if we have something that we can just use to change the color. Over here, inventory cell, what do you have? Part of the control, it would be part of the canvas item. Modulate. Okay. It is self-modulate. Um, 5. As a float, I should remember this. I forgot about this notation with literal numbers. This is going to be return a new vector2 uses row and column. We need to create a drag preview object. We're going to make that separate of a UI cell. It's just going to have the icon. Because we may want to do some other things with it, some other visual aspects with the drag. We'll see. We restore it to full opaque white when we start to drag it. So let's see if that's working. Oh. It's not letting me drop it. Okay. It's not recognizing that it's the right thing. This isn't working. We cannot have a drag that doesn't carry the right information. Let's pin right here. Interesting. It's the object. That's why. It's not the variant itself. The variant is a container for the object. Okay. If you look, well, okay, you can't see it because the scale is off. Something about this is wrong now. The transform. I thought it was the layout. Yeah, custom minimum size. That is not being respected. Like, it was moments ago. Right there. Like, we can no longer see the big block UI across the bottom. So, did we mess it up somewhere else? Inventory is the actual game world inventory. This is the thing that actually manages it. At least is supposed to. Okay, yeah. So the inventory exists as part of the game. It initializes the UI. Hey there, is it Rufus? Or Rufus? Equivalent? In either event, hello and welcome. Let's see. Okay, that's being initialized to rows and columns. That is the correct thing. Inventory UI uses those rows and columns to generate this. Put this back. Does it work? Okay. So if I drag and drop a cell, it becomes red. If I drag it over here, as soon as I start dragging it, it ceases to be red. This is not like endgame functionality. This is demonstration that it's working. Now, again, the inventory, again, for the folks that are aware of what's been on the dev whiteboard and the like, the inventory doesn't control what you've got. The UI doesn't. The actual one does. Rufus, we are making a Vampire Survivors style game. The inventory that we're working on, the gray boxes down there for now, is going to be the thing that defines how the weapons you've got work. The way the slimes are moving, the sort of placeholder testing enemy, is controlled by the kind of structure that we're building with the inventory. So it's a series of controlled events. How many micro motions are they doing right now? They are... Where's our catalog? Let's see. Okay. When a blob spawns, it always spirals out. I'm sorry. It spawns in a double starburst. So, 5 in a 270-degree arc. So a classic 5-pointed star. And then each of those points splits into 5 in a 5-pointed star. And then they begin rotating outward. So an outward spiral. And they do that in kind of like a sine wave. Then after 3 seconds, they start moving towards the mouse cursor and rotating inward at double speed. So every frame, we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movement calculations after 3 seconds. That's for every one of 8,000 entities. So, 48,000 actions per blob for all of the blobs per frame. So there's a lot that happens. We're using Godot. I think it's Godot 4 something at this point. 4.3. And we're using the mono compiler version, which is the C# side of it. Okay, so now the inventory UI is going to register each of these cells to report an event. And that's going to be, I swapped, like this cell and this cell are swapping. And each one of those cells needs to register a listener it has to be registered to be a listener on the actual inventory. Sorry, no, the bit of a daisy chain of functionality here. I will continue explaining it in just a moment. I will be right back. Testing. Yeah. Ah, there it goes. Yeah, I have a couple of fail safes for I have a couple of fail safes for detecting when that kind of thing happens. But we have encountered the one I can't see in before it happens. But yes. For those unfamiliar with what's going on, we are making a game. And what we are working on right now is part of the user interface, the part that you're going to drag and drop around to customize your weaponry in the game. We're doing the drag and drop portion right now. And once we've got that general flow going, then we're going to add in the actual inventory interaction in the background. We're kind of rolling backwards from what the player touches to how it actually gets into the game logic. Okay, so a cell drop has a from and a vector to 2. Event. Or an inventory UI cell drop. So then when we actually get a data drop, right now we're doing a self-modulation, but we are going to say inventory pixel drop. If you have stuff, .raise or .invoke. Vector 2. Full stack? Based on this, yes, technically. In a past life. The developers whose engram I contain primarily did back-end stuff, but was sometimes required to do front-end stuff for his sins. Won't be any like client server on this for the foreseeable future. As a vector 2. So we're on day 85. I do most of the coding on stream, so we are moving way slower than I would be capable of otherwise. Sort of. I mean, the community helps quite a bit. But here, we can see some of the core logic. Is in inventory UI. Doo-doo. Whoopsie doopsie. And also, hello, Yeesus. So what you're seeing, the player object in the center is currently purely for reference in collision logic. I think, yeah, I've got it colliding. If a blob touches the player, the blob goes away. But what we have here is just about 8,000 blobs, and every one of those blobs is making 6 micromotions every physics frame, which is just about 30 times a second, I believe. And each of those motions is kind of a chain of events that happens. And that's the core logic of the game, is building those chains of events for your weapons in a way that will make it so that you can wipe out lots and lots of monsters very quickly. Because if it were to reach this state, you would lose almost instantly. Because there are all these blobs touching the player. Haven't decided how the player's life will ultimately work, whether we'll go with kind of like a heart system, or if it'll be like your Vampire Survivor's life bar kind of thing. No, it's not. We're actually holding at 60 frames a second. Now, periodically, usually about once it starts going, there can be a dip in FPS down to about 25. Haven't isolated the why. Let me check. Is the stream holding? Looks like it might be on your end. At least YouTube is claiming that the stream is stable. But, might be that YouTube isn't serving it up to you cleanly. What is it, Sky? One of my cats is chirping at me. Hey there, James. Welcome. So we've got the basic drag and drop interaction going. The ones that are going red are receiving a drop event. Sky. Yeah. Sky is a danger to things like typing and whatnot. He says this is going to be a Bullet Heaven style game. If you've played Vampire Survivors, it's kind of like that. I only have a working project title, not a game title yet. Control node drag and drop, James. I have decided that as much of like the player facing UI as possible is going to be actually node driven. That way I don't have to deal with the idiosyncrasies between the code level creation of a node and the actual existence of a node. As much as possible. I mean, the cells, the rows are created on the fly. They don't have to be, but we're starting. If you're not familiar with the inner workings of Godot, there are kind of bits and bobs to how things work. So, yeah, I know. So, the game scene that you were seeing just moments ago here, that is currently hard-coded to be part of the what starts, is actually composed of a few parts. We have the mesh renderer, which is the thing that you saw all the blobs, that kind of stuff. The mesh renderer handles that. Then the collision manager is the thing that handles those blobs running into stuff. Yeah, camera lets you see. The FPS layer is just the thing that shows the numbers in the upper left. Then the inventory manager, which is that grid of inventory down there. You're being a problem, Sky. You are. So when Sky wants attention, he's my fluffy gray and white cat. Not visible on camera currently, but if we zoom out, you'll be able to see like half of him. Kind of in the upper right there, that's Sky. His torso is draped across a draft excluder that is part of the cat barrier system that keeps them off of my keyboard, but I can't protect the mouse in the same way. His paws are right next to the mouse, and if I stop scratching his chin, he will grab that mouse, and he knows how to click it. He will do that on purpose. It's a local game for now, Isis. I am building it in a fashion that would not disallow multiplayer, but the mechanics of the game are such that more players become a performance risk. 8,000 might seem like a lot of things on the screen, but I'm going for 8,000 because I don't want to hit the threshold. Threshold is about 10,000, I think. We can get about 10,000 with collisions happening. Multiple players means lots of extra projectiles happening. And that might run into issues. It's also just an added layer of complexity. So not out of the question, but not to start with. Okie dokie. So I have an inventory cell. It is going to raise an event if it gets a drag and drop. We are going to change these to be a... it's okay. A lot of the stuff I'm talking about, even if you don't understand it, feel free to follow along or ask questions. With coding the game, a lot of what you're going to hear is just me thinking through the process of writing it. All of this is pretty much done on the fly. If I were doing this professionally, like a big boy dev, I would have a design document in similar that I would be calling out from. But we're not doing that. It's we're learning as we go, and we're designing as we go. This is actually the C# that you're seeing is after a massive rewrite to use C# instead of the Godot scripting language. So you'll be learning right alongside everybody else. But I do have 8 cameras positioned around to keep track of the cats. You can see 3 of my 5 cats on camera right now. They are napping. Like right now, I can't use the mouse because Sky is leaning his cheek on my mouse hand. So if I don't scratch his cheek with my hand, he'll just lay his head right on it. So delay by cat. This is a not uncommon thing. To some extent, it's a lot of times working with any coding language and any kind of coding project is looking at it from the highest level when it often seems the smallest, and then digging in. So while as you're breaking the project down, you're breaking it into smaller pieces. Those smaller pieces will reveal the actual breadth and scope of the project, and often that makes it bigger on paper, bigger to do it properly. For those that haven't seen the full character before, chin scratches for Sky still. Okay, so we're going to return position. We're going to leave the self-modulation there. We're going to leave this here for now. This being the drag and drop preview, which is a visual thing we haven't created yet. I did not make that, Isis. This was created by Animation Studios. They do some good stuff, and the design document that I gave them was executed above and beyond. Okay, we need to rename this cell position. Position was being used by the parent object texture rectangle that could cause problems. We are going to change this to be a vector 2 cell position. I, J. Sure, that's all still working. I mean, you joke, but that kind of code, you will find it if you look far enough. Even if they don't have explicit truths, you will find circumstances where the variables that they use are always like true or always false, and they still check them. So you'll think you have an actual logical statement flow, but what you have is some absolutes that won't work the way you think they work. Start list of cells. Okay. So we need to have that actual event wired up. So we have from and to. We are going to invoke the event with where we're dragging from and where we are dragging to cell position. So not this. We are going to have in our inventory UI, we're going to have private. And also, hello, Crimmy. Welcome. From to. Let's just do that. You forgot that it'll do that for me. On. There we go. So now we have a from and to that's happening at the actual inventory UI level, the whole level. So the cells will report upward that this is happening. Rendering it down into a from to vector. We're going to report this up the chain. So not one of these. We're going to have almost the same thing here. I should be using more comments. It's part of why I'm trying to have also very verbose names. Like that kind of thing. It's an inventory UI drop event type so that I can catch them more easily if I forget some things. No. Hello there, Duck and Rainy. That. Quit it. This guy is being grabby, so coding is being impeded. So the next thing that we're going to add is we're going to add an invoke of that event, which just relays it along. So this is the... okay, I've got that wrong. That is a public event. Hey, quit it. Okay. It's an event. If it exists, we invoke it with from and to. We're just relaying this event along. But it allows us to consolidate it in one place. This guy right here. So in our actual inventory, we have our inventory UI, which is part of the actual inventory logic, which on ready we are going to initialize it to load it up. It needs to be on ready because this will not exist until on ready. Okay, quit that. I'm not a fan of Java either. There are a lot of elements of the language that are annoying to deal with. It's not a bad language. I mean, it has a lot of the characteristics of any modern coding language. But I don't like the runtime environment process or similar stuff. Or UI drop equals that on okay, so we need to have an inventory changed event as well, though. Which makes me feel like we need a separate one. Yeah. So right now we have entity management happening as a static. GUI elements like the mesh manager and all of that can be part of the world, and we could have that with entity management as well. But the trick will be this inventory, the actual player inventory, right here, is the source of truth. And when it raises an event, we need that to percolate down to each of the objects here. I would like to have that be an event, but I think we're going to have an exposed function for that, just for rationality and just for practicality. Public void. Oh, no. No, that's exactly why we want it to be an event. Because we don't want to have to tell... We don't want it to parse down globally. No, that'll still work. Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is how to communicate. Well, thanks for joining us, Isis. Uh, I want to percolate an inventory change event back down the chain. So we're going to have a public void. Vector 2, cell position. That's it. As far as the change is concerned, this is the only thing that matters, is the key for it, the key for the texture. So then we are going to look at our we are going to change this here. Very specifically, that's the actual type. So then in inventory cell, we're going to have another inventory change here. Move you above. Kind of like the idea of keeping the built-ins down at the bottom. The Godot level ones. That's not being universally handled, but my whim is currently that. E, say, texture, and texture is equal to that. And we do update texture. Odyssey, I'm making a Bullet Heaven game, a Vampire Survivors-like game. The core gimmick is going to be kind of, let's say, kind of program chain-based logic for how they move and behave. Each individual weapon will have base logic for how it operates, and then each kind of power-up that you add to it, and based on which power-ups and in which order they're in, it will behave differently. Okay. So if a drag and drop happens, then we're going to percolate that all the way back up to the inventory. It's going to validate it, and then it's going to report back a change if one has actually happened. So up here, so on inventory UI drop, we have our list of strings. We do need to go in and populate these. Really shouldn't be a list. But they can be. They can be. In the same way that we're doing this, rows and columns, we are going to set up the same thing over in here. Rows, do that. Or J is less than columns. Once again, this is what AI is for. AI is not for customer service. AI is not for a variety of use cases. AI is fill in the next thing. The AI that we currently have. And it can be really good at that. But you need a human being to decide, yeah, that's what I want. It can be very complicated, Odyssey, but a good way to learn, one of the primary ways to learn is to do it. And if you want to get kind of a taste of that, I'm relearning C# and I am learning the Godot engine live. This is day 85 of us doing this by the seat of our pants. On blank. How do we want to do this? We initialized it. Explicit, it has to have some value in it. We're going to try to get the texture. Actually, no, we don't need to do that. Catalog knows how to handle that. And that the catalog will return nothing to this. So we'll set the texture to nothing. So what I can do is use the inventory to trigger a pre-population on that. So we are going to have a private position X. Position Y is equal to key. You're too high. There we go. Hello, Cappy. Welcome to the broadcast. These should be vector 2 eyes. Because the grid position is not in floats, it is in absolutes, it is in integers. Ah. Are folks swinging over? Hello there. Do not have an event for that. At least I cannot see that easily. But hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for swinging through. How are y'all doing? Let's get those changed up. These are also vector 2 eyes. These shall be vector 2 eyes. All the way down. Well, thank you. Thank you. It turned out very well. Very, very well. That's okay. Come on now. Meant to be kitty cat, but I do get how they would carry that look. And since I like to show off and there's new people. There you go. Well, thanks for swinging through, Aries. Thanks for swinging through. But I appreciate the compliment. Either way, Cappy. I appreciate the compliment. Oh, good times, good times. Let's check in with the kitties since Sky is distracting me. Sky is one of the 5. We can see 4 of them otherwise. So Ember, top center, is across from my keyboard. She is actually teeny tiny. The camera's just real close. Then left center is the bed. I keep that room dark for them so they can nap easily. Hey there, Kai. Welcome. Welcome, Raiders. On their top left is Sherbet. Right center is Mason. He is Sherbet's brother. I think adopted brother. They were kind of a litter of kittens that were brought into the shelter. And then bottom center, that little inky spot, is Sammy, my little tuxedo. You can't see Sky because he's on my lap being a nuisance. I appreciate it. The kitty cats are a constant factor of the stream. I do love my cats. I say that he's a nuisance. Sky is pretty much my most clever cat. He knows how to get my attention. He knows that if he pulls cables, he will get my attention. He knows if he grabs the computer mouse and clicks frantically, he'll get my attention. Hello, JR. Welcome, welcome. If I seem to be talking to somebody you can't see in chat, it's because I have a Twitch stream and a YouTube stream going. I don't put chat on screen because people can't be trusted, and I don't have nearly enough mods. Okay, so we have that running, which means down here. So we have a UI drop. This is where we need to set the cells value. Okay. This is where we update it, and then we are going to raise an event. No, we call inventory changed. That's right. Inventory y dot Did we say set? What did we call the function? Inventory change. We're going to pass in cell position. We're going to pass in key. Well, thank you. I have been told that some people don't actually watch the stream, they listen to it. This is where we'll process the from to. We can, in the inventory cell, do some pre-processing here in the can drag drop, where it should check if if its position is a 0x, it won't let it drag, because those are the fixed weapon positions. That's what I tell folks, Ayumi, is I am relearning C# and I am learning how to code in Godot. This is not something that I already know how to do. I have not coded games before. So this stream series, this Vtuber makes a game, is starting from scratch. Now, I have coded in the past professionally. But that's it. Okay. Exactly, Odyssey. We'll all learn together. Well, thanks for swinging through, Cherry. Thanks for swinging through. I don't have anything publicly shared yet. It's pretty much all on the stream. I do have a couple of work in progress videos. We will eventually get... Sorry. Probably seasonal allergies, but my cough is back, so periodically I've got to mute the mic so I don't deafen you all. Ayumi, if you go way back to the Noida videos on my channel, shameless plug, watch my old streams, you will actually see some of the original sprite art that has led into the sprite art for this, as well as see some of the concepts that are going to come into it. We made a Noida mod way back in the day that was kind of like a viewer interaction, background lore kind of thing. I do have some background lore for my character as well, if you want to look at that. There's a composite of like short videos and Twitter lore teasers. Okay. So return cell position x is not equal 0, and that in parens, and we'll put that. No. Oop. That in parens, and this in parens. There we go. Okay, so you cannot drop the data if the cell position of this location is X. Then we're going to say get drag data is going to return null if the cell position X is 0. So if we have a cell position, we're going to return cell position. Sorry, if we have a valid one, else we're going to return null. Oh, should be able to return null, right? Apparently variant is not. I don't know if this will actually work. Because what I want is for this not to trigger a drag. I don't want to create the impression that you can do that. I. Oh. Oops. It's not X. So technically, I render these in reverse. I do row and then column on this. So it's not in reverse, it's more in like spreadsheet than it is screen XY. Which is why now I don't like the fact that I'm using cell position as a vector 2. Because it creates the illusion that this is potentially the wrong thing. That this is column and not cell, you know? So we might refactor that again. Can't drop there. Okay, and it does not drag. Good. Since the variant contains null, it does not trigger the drag event. Good, good. That's what I want. Okay. We're going to use set drag preview here, but first we need to set up a scene for it. And I need to change this because it will drive me crazy. are going to... We are going to be very explicit about this. As far as which variable type, like what each variable means. I had mentioned this earlier. We're being verbose. We are trying to make it so that when you look at these types, they tell you a great deal of how it works. I'm fine with having comment blocks explain more detail, but I want the... I do want the signatures to speak for themselves as much as possible. So I'm not fully reliant on those comments being visible. Okay, this will still be a vector 2i. When we raise... did I mess that up? I did. Oh. We can still do it. We can still do that. It's still a vector 2i. The data is still a vector 2i when we get it. And we're going to pass it in as a vector 2i. So it's only an intermediary. This. We know this is a... We know that this is a vector 2i because we checked it before it was able to drop. X positions y column. Are going to grab that. It will be useful in a moment. There's our data. We're still returning a vector 2i for the actual data. So then up here, we get a from and to. We are going to do that. That column forward. And we're going to take our UI drop here. We're going to do the same thing. Column, row, column. Okay. Then up in the inventory. Okay, so this should all still work. Let's validate. Okay. So really... So right here, we're adding it to the inventory. What we actually want to do is when we're creating it, we're going to pre-populate it. This is us initializing cough. This is us initializing the list. We're going to iterate over it again here. The same thing. We're going to remove this part here. This is just us populating the list so that we have a series of elements in it. Go in, we're going to add that to the inventory list, and then we are going to set... We're going to set cell value. This will have int row, int column. Again, very explicit. Very clear. Now here comes the tricky part. Actually, no. Again, we solved this. Inventory UI gets an inventory change. Inventory UI takes an inventory change, and it's going to propagate that down to here, inventory change. So, cells, row, column, inventory change. Okay, so these should all still come in blank. Yep. Okay. So now we go into our catalog, and we are going to check our Godot listing here. Let's get that orbit icon loaded. Again, but we are going to make a new. in our inventory load up, where we are setting it to icon blank, we're going to say a modulo 2 is 0. That else. Testing code, just testing code. Did not work. Oh. Okay, we are... This was out of... We're setting it to nothing. This is just priming the list. Okay, every other one is an orbit. So now if I drag this one here, nothing will happen just yet. But next thing we'll do is we need to make sure that this is propagating properly. Oh, that's right. Okay, so we've got inventory change. Set it. Here's where we validate it. Column does not equal 0. End. Further validation. This is going to be a meaty series of if here. And So it will still be a valid column if it's 0. Is two stage. We want to be able to recognize that it's a valid cell, period. Because we do want to check that. And column is less than columns. So this is it a valid cell, period? It needs to be from 0 to inventory rows -1. Column is greater than 0. And it's valid cell from row, column, and so we're going to have is valid cell elsewhere potentially in the logic, but for now, oh, no. So we're making sure that we can actually do this drag and drop. We're making extra sure we actually can. All is valid drag and drop does is add the 0 here. We may set rows and columns in other ways. So we do want to just check, is this a cell that is in range? From key is equal to not two string. These are strings. Then we perform our swap by set cell value. Okay, the from to the to and the to the from. Do. Click. Okay, we're going to remove that modulation here from the test code now. Drop, drag, drop, drag, drop, drag and drop, does nothing, drag and drop, does nothing. Also go up and down. Okay. So events bubble it up, and when that event happens, we explicitly call back down. I would like it to be an event that we subscribe to, but there's a bit of a circular dependency on that. I don't want to hand this upper object all the way down. Could we still do this? Yes, there would need to be kind of like an external event that things could look to. Like a actual public, like a static event out there in the world that the inventory would be listening to. Could we do that? Yes. Not sure I want to do that right now, though. Okay, so we have them in place. We have it that they're loading up. Next thing we need to do is have it load it from inventory. We want to see if we can get this set up. One, we need to have item keys carry icon keys. So right now it's loading entities. What I think I'm going to do is have an item. And an item is independent of what entity it loads, kind of thing. The item can just be a text blob, a entity key, but how do we differentiate? So there's behaviors and there's entities as far as the inventory is concerned. We want to be able to handle both of those things. Column 0 would contain, for the most part, entities. So an entity could have an icon. As far as retrieving it. So what we're thinking on here, so like projectile-wise, a projectile itself is an entity. This is what it looks like. This is what category it is, so I can do the collision right. This is how it behaves. This is how it moves around. So an item can have an entity. Subsequent things in the inventory are not entities, though. They're behaviors. So we can see these, like move to the cursor is a behavior. The inventory that when it generates a entity template to use as a spawner needs to know which type it is in order to validate things. Because everything after is a behavior. So we could change to have specific logic in the inventory. That we know that 0 is an entity. So we would have to validate that. we would need to be able to validate that so that behaviors couldn't get into the 0 column. Now, I think we can cover that just by convention here. So the inventory currently doesn't have any direct interactions. We could just add behavior and add entity. Cough. Don't know that I want to call it a weapon. We're going to say add entity. Hey there, Jabber. We are making a game right now. We're coding more of the inventory system. Well, good. There's going to be plenty of coding happening. We've never made a game before. I have past experience coding, but no game development experience. And I haven't worked extensively in C# by any stretch, and I have not used Godot before. So we're all learning together. Okay, adding the entity. Don't need to know. This is extraneous, but it makes it explicit. That's fine then. If inventory list row in column So if it's explicitly nothing, we can add something here. Row 0 key. Okay, so when we add an entity to the inventory, it's going to find the first blank one in the column. When we public. For now, these are absolute. You cannot remove them. All right, what we're doing is we're start. So what we're doing is we're starting at the very end of the inventory and we're adding from behind here. This is inventory list. Row. Column. We are going to have to shift this around. I should not be referring to icons as the cell content. It should be like item this. This is just to fill it in blank. It will always be at least blank. So when we're adding a behavior, we are rolling it back from the end cell. So we add from the top as far as entities, we add from the back as far as behaviors. But again, we're just referring to an item key here. So let's go to our catalog then. So we have spawners, targeters, movements, gates. Just conceptually, the last thing in the list is an item. Which means we now need the concept of an item. So we have our actual inventory. Now we're going to say this is a... We'll be explicit. It is an inventory item. That's weird. Here, need to get these in their proper namespace here. Working title, by the way, Nyanite Survivors. Easy to forget the namespace, but here, home, end, bracket. This will have a public icon key. Okay, so here's the tricky aspect. So again, inventory item can be a behavior or it can be a entity right now. If it is an entity, we need to get it from load entity. If it's a behavior, we need to get it from load behavior. As far as which one it is. Now, it can be presumed that it's a particular one. Based on which slot it's in. And we can do that. That is an expedience. I think we will. I don't necessarily like it. But it's one of those cases where if I load it wrong, it's okay that it explodes. There we go. The only reason that this thing exists is to carry the icon key and the object key. The inventory for display purposes just needs the icon key. And the The inventory, when it is constructing an entity, needs the object key. So then in our catalog, we are going to add static dictionary of string, and these are not 8s, these are inventory items. Executive decision on my capitalization differences here. Member variables get capital. Local variables are we don't even have spawners ready to roll yet. That's why. Spawners are where an entity should appear. Right now, that's kind of hard-coded in the test code. We will be changing that as soon as we start trying to make weaponry. In the interim, we're going to be making the entity templates via this. We're going to be making that testing blobs template. We're going to call this testing one Nanoblob here. So we may end up needing like a tooltip string for this. Oh yeah, Rufus, cat cam. So that's the camera on the bed. There's 2 of them fully visible there. That room is dark, so they can nap easily if they choose. Let's see how many of the others we can find. Not sure where Mason is hiding. He may have gone under the bed. He might just be fully concealed in the dark. But Ember is top center. She's the smallest. Sky is top right. You can see half of him. They do. Mason is the one that plays with it the most. Sherbet will occasionally bat at it, but Mason will like lay on top of it and grab at the pucks. Let's see here. Left center, the top one is Sherbet. He's kind of tan and white. Then bottom center is Sammy. She's a tuxedo. I have 5 cats. However, that 5 is kind of a sweet spot, at least for my ability to give them proper attention. Okay, so that's the pattern for adding an inventory item. I am actually going to add a string here. Really need some way to differentiate what it is and get a tooltip, like a fully structured tooltip. But that will be useful later. Oh, that's convenient. We'll have to figure out how to structure that properly and, load it in nicely. But we'll get there. We're going to start with just that. I'm from the US. In the Central Time Zone. You get a lot of people from various places in the US and Europe. A couple of folks from elsewhere, too. Okay. Would like one behavior. Let's start with just the weapon here. Okay, so we need a concept of creating the item templates. We will fetch them. We will be able to fetch them from the inventory or utilize them elsewhere, but for the time being, or that didn't break it. Sometimes when you change a object's interior code, you have to make sure its exports are still set. Sometimes it will strip them. I don't think this can be read-only. Well, we'll find out in a moment. Whenever we add entities, we have to rebuild the weaponry. Build entities. We're going to empty it out when we do this. So all of the existing weapons go away. For me, it's about 6:30. Yeah. Those items plus. Makes sense. Let's see. We don't. If I 0. All right, we need to change this over. So these can't be icon blank. These have to be different. This needs to be items. Item empty, special case. Doesn't actually have an... Well, actually, no. It can have an item. Okay. So this is a very particular case. Because what we're saying there is that icon blank, item empty, is a signal in the inventory for don't worry about this. So got to do some shuffling here. Inventory change doesn't actually care what the key is as far as name is concerned. That saves me a little bit of trouble. Great, but all right, we need in our catalog, we need a get item. We'll also need copyable in there. Oh, okay. Let's go down the rabbit hole here. Entity needs to extend catalogable here. And in entity, we need to find needs to have comparable to that. Be an implement interface option. There we go. So these can't be read-only. That's okay. Okay. Pass it in. It works that way. So that's... We have a copy capability now. And we're going to be explicit here. We don't have to do that. The compiler can infer from this return and this collection that I mean the inventory version object of get from catalog. I don't care. I'm going to spell it out for it. Because the compiler is not to be trusted. Here in an inventory UI cell, we're going to say catalog get inventory item. And we're going to use it's not going to be image key, it's going to be item key. Hey, Colin, we're doing okay. Doing okay. Icon key. Then sub dot this dot tooltip text is equal to inventory item. And we are going to change that in the catalog for blank. I mean, it's nice to be past the worst of the sick. I don't like that my cough is back, but, you know. Just for testing purposes, we're going to do that. Filing. Inventory did not load because show me the stack. Okay, we're trying to get that value. Oh, that's why. Item empty. Still didn't like it. We update texture. Okay. Okay, we set the item key. Now we're going to update contents. So we get the inventory item. Get the texture. Then we try to get the tooltip. See where we're failing here. Okay, item empty is not being set in the catalog. Oh. Inventory items. Equal to that. Load. What did I call it? Load items. Capitalized. Hey there, Luck. No, this is Visual Studio. Where's load items? Static. Static. Come on now. There we go. Item blank is being loaded up. Now we need to... We're going to briefly change what we are loading into it in our actual inventory. That's... Gonna verify that everything's still working. Okay, good. Hey there, Ice Drake. I hope to keep it that way. Okay. We set them empty. Then what we want to do is we are going to try to add an entity, and it is going to be catalog. This is set cell value. J, comma, key. Okay. So now we should see the orbit icons in the leftmost one. Yep. Okay, what we're doing is we're forcing these in here. We are going to brute force this to some extent. It's really inefficient to look at it the way we're looking at it, but so if there's an item here, entity, catalog dot inventory item. This way we don't have to reference through the array multiple times. Okay. Skip that. We don't need you anymore. Okay, where is our update trigger? So we tell everything that it's changed here. Wildly inefficient to put it here, because every drag and drop is going to make this happen twice. So I don't actually want it here. We need a place that says I'm done messing with it, but all right, we're going to put it here for now. Okay. How is it coming in blank? Should not be able to come in blank into set cell value. If it's an item empty, we can replace it. If this value is ever null when we're actually processing, this is a problem. Like whenever we're interacting with the inventory, that's a problem. And that's part of the issue. That's part of the issue. Okay. Okay. This isn't great, but we need it to pre-populate. Okay, they're there, and we should be getting our call to build entity templates here, which should have 2 items in it by the end of this. Yep. Oh, no. Let's continue. We are going to do a drag and drop. Okay, there are now 2 things in there. Okay, so we have the basics for creating the templates. So one thing we could do here is that the entity manager So right now, it is doing a brute force creation on it right here. Instead, and we're going to be... add in... Oh, no. Okay. All right. So right now, entity catalog is the thing... I'm sorry, entity manager is the thing that is generating these entities. We need to be able to get to the inventory from wherever this is happening. So we need to move all of this into the entity template thing. So we've got an entity. So we're going to take all of that. Catalog.get entity, inventory item, object key. We now have an entity, and we are now going to do all of the footwork for creating it. Need a random. All right, we're just going to start it at 500, 500. We're not going to set its position. So we are getting a copy of the base from the catalog. We are processing all of its behaviors. This will change. This part will change. Because we're then going to go through all of the rest of the row starting at 1. We're going to find the other behaviors, and we're going to add that in the same fashion. So right here, we're going to add those additional behaviors to entity behaviors. So we've added the base behaviors in here to our new behavior. And the entity behaviors are all going to get the extra ones that we're going to pop in from the catalog. From the rest of the row. So the next thing is how to get this into the world. So for the time being, what we're going to do... So we have a physics process going on here. We are just going to spam this thing. This is going to be entity manager, add entity for each entity in entity templates. Catalog dot copy entity that. So we are going to duplicate the entity that we're adding here. And just for testing purposes, we are going to say to 100, 500. Okay, which means in the entity manager, we're not using any of this here. We're just going through entities to add. And this will totally work, and I didn't break everything. It do. Now, they're launching very far away because they've positioned themselves differently. But you can see they're starting to make their way back. We have the basics of the weapon system rolling. The blobs that are spawning because there are 2 of those circles in the lower left there. If I only had 1 circle, there would be half as many blobs spawning. Now, we need to get spawner logic in there so they know where to spawn in the world. But we also need to get the behavior additions in there so I can put different icons in the row and process those. But that's actually not a big leap from where we are. That said, this is where we're stopping for the day. But let's take it in for a moment. Let's take in what we've accomplished here. It's good times. It's good times. All right, here. Hopefully we're going to be back fully operational as far as streams are concerned. I am trying to get more streams in than we previously had. We'll see how that goes. I'm also going to try to get some more gaming streams woven in just for a change of pace. I have fun with those kind of creepy atmospheric games, and I want to play more of those. It's a bit of an excuse that it's October, but I'll take that excuse. But all that said, I hope you all had fun today learning to code with us, watching along as we do this. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, push all those good buttons. It helps the channel grow, and hopefully it will help you find the streams in the future. With all that said, again, I normally say with all that said here, not earlier. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time, folks.